Hey everybody, welcome to today's webinar, Think Big, Stay Grounded. I am Josh Scott and I lead Enterprise Solution Engineering here at Sparq. My background has been focused mainly on leading and actively collaborating with agile teams, globally distributed agile teams, building a lot of cool enterprise products across multiple verticals. My expertise lies in solution architecture in the consulting space at Sparq. My primary objective is really twofold. First, to really deeply understand our clients' needs and desired business outcomes. And then secondly, to use my experience to align the right technology approaches and delivery expertise to meet those goals. Ultimately, I use technology to make clients happy. We're really excited to be part of a team to talk about AI and how it's rapidly becoming an essential part of the digital product development. AI's potential is really transformative, but it shows up in really unexpected places. It shows up in healthcare and fall detection. It shows up in manufacturing, in predictive maintenance. That being said, the AI journey getting started can feel really overwhelming, which is why our focus today is just to talk about practical strategies to get you moving in the right direction. Before we get started, I wanted to mention that Sparq has a new white paper out that's available on our website. It really pairs well with this webinar, gives practical steps, examples of how industry leaders like yourselves have implemented AI in their product development. So before we get started, I want to let my friends who have a wealth of experience in today's topic to introduce themselves, then we'll get started. Who wants to get started?
Okay, so
go ahead, Ian. Why don't you start us out?
Sure. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Ian Fox, the Director of Digital Engineering at Sparq. In my role, I collaborate across delivery and sales to support some of our sales pursuits, and I also advise on some of our client engagements, spanning a variety of industries. I leverage my extensive background in technology and deep experience with building high-functioning product teams to help guide the delivery of world-class software products for our customers that achieve their desired business outcomes. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation. I think we have a lot of great stuff to share, and I'll pass it over to Zain.
Hello, everybody. My name is Zain Naboulsi. I am a senior AI architect and engineer. Been with Sparq about a little over 3 years now. Been doing AI for almost a decade, everything from Department of Defense work all the way up to route optimization. It's fun to be here. I'm looking forward to talking with you guys today. I'll pass it over to Ken.
Good afternoon. My name is Ken Cavner. I'm a principal at Sparq, and I'm in the AI and data practice. I've been in the technology industry for about 30 years. I think most of my career I've been working in data architecture and design. But for the last 5 years or so, I've been working in all facets of AI and machine learning. I've helped multiple people and companies develop and implement AI strategy, and I'm excited to hear what you guys are doing and help you on your journey. And I'm going to pass it over to Anthony.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anthony Rodez. I'm a principal data scientist here at Sparq. I work pretty much across the verticals, helping teams with data science, AI, ML, working to help teams understand how to use data better, how to achieve goals with data and data science in general. But overall, just working across the teams collaboratively to help foster the data science and AI movement within our Sparq group. Thank you very much. I'll hand it over to, who else do we have here? Stephen.
Thank you, Anthony. My name is Stephen Anderson, and I'm the Senior Director of Data and AI at Sparq. New addition to the team, actually. Just joined Sparq officially about a month ago. Prior to that, though, a long history in technology, been actually working in machine learning in various forms since the 1980s, believe it or not. So my role at Sparq is to support all the fine members of the team that you're talking to today and to further things along. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation with all of you. So appreciate the time.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Why don't we get started? Ian, let me ask you a question, because you and I work closely together, like you said, talking to our customers, new, prospects, et cetera. And one of the most common questions we get, everybody talks about AI. Most every conversation it's a part of that discussion. What are some of the first steps that we recommend when a client wants to get started on this journey?
So there's a few things I'd like to touch on here. The first of which is understand your organizational strategy. I think it's really important to make sure that when you're starting down that AI journey, you're aligning the direction that you're implementing AI, or you're considering implementing AI, in a way that aligns and supports who you are as an organization and where you're going. So quick example I like to use is if you're a travel agency that differentiates yourselves in the market through white glove sort of concierge service with your customers, you probably want to be cautious about how you engage something like conversational AI to automate some of the experience with your users. Instead, maybe you look at a way to elevate user insights and information to your agents so they can better serve your customers. So it's important to make sure those things are aligned. The next thing I'd say is, understand what your capabilities are within your organization. More than likely, some of your employees have experimented with AI or have some experience with it, so that's something you want to be aware of, so you can leverage it if it's valuable for where you're headed. And then data, it's such an important aspect, and we'll dig into this more, I think, but understanding the current state of your data and how you can be positioned to start down that journey, that's really critical. And acknowledging, I think, where you may have gaps and when you need to bring in some external expertise to support you to better understand how prepared you are and where you may need to focus to get started. And then lastly, it's use case. Find that first small use case so you can get started.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to add into that, just to give some folks a little extra. Recently on the Federal News Network website, they had a fantastic article talking about the ROI of doing artificial intelligence. I'll include that link in the chat for folks so that they can check it out. It really is amazing. Take a look at it.
One of the things that we also talk to our clients about is kind of the culture shift that's required as we begin to think differently about, as we mentioned in the intro, this isn't kind of a bolt on the side feature. This, AI is becoming key to every piece of both product feature sets, but also product development itself. And so I wonder who might, Anthony, maybe speak a little bit to what we've seen regarding kind of a culture shift that an organization needs to take as they adopt AI.
Yeah, so Josh, from a cultural standpoint, to foster AI, it's really about understanding what tool sets are available and adopting those tool sets internally so that you can start using those and leveraging those. I think a lot of companies might want to start with, let's say, software engineering, using tools that are available to software engineers, but there's also tools like Grammarly, that has AI with for writing. There's so many tools out there now that you can quickly get started with these tools, and these small steps will help create momentum within the company and the culture to help foster AI. And I think that's where you start, is just starting small with some initial tools, identifying what people kind of gravitate towards, and then going from there.
Yeah, I'd also add in, Anthony, I think, do your research too, right? Understand what your organization is going to be utilizing for your platform for AI, and just go out and really spend some time looking at the tool sets that they have and making yourself familiar with them. There's tons of classes and certifications and tutorials you can take as well. So
yeah, we keep going back to the small incremental steps that you can take. One of the things I think really differentiates Sparq and our approach is, not only is every client talking to us about AI, but every company like ours is talking about AI. And whether it's, white papers or any number of marketing collateral that we're putting out, which is really important. I think one of the things that differentiates our approach is we're really concentrating on getting in the trenches with our clients, helping you find those small ways to drive value quickly. And Stephen, I was wondering if you might just talk about our approach to that first step. We don't want to just give an assessment and leave somebody with just an assessment. Our philosophy really is about leaving something behind that has real value. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the approach that we take as an organization is very utilitarian. We want to make sure that what we're providing, and the verbiage that we've adopted actually is pilot for this phase, right? So being able to take a single use case or a small set of use cases, be able to develop solutions that are AI enabled against those use cases and prove the ROI, right? An assessment, I think, is an important piece of that, or discovery phase is an important piece of that. Understanding what the needs are. You can actually even touch on some of the previous comments that were made here are really about cultural adoption. There's a lot of adoption anxiety when it comes to AI today. Working with organizations, not just to find those use cases, deliver a pilot that is utilitarian, has measurable ROI, but also showing that organization how they don't have to have maybe as much fear as they anticipated regarding adoption of AI in a responsible way inside the organization. So ROI is a component of it, but also the kind of visualizing or implementing a responsible, practical use of AI inside the organization is equally as important as well.
I 100% agree. You mentioned fear, Stephen, and I think it's not uncommon for new emergent technologies to have that kind of fear response. But I think one of the things we found in talking to clients is it's the fear of it getting out of control. It's the fear of it invading privacy. Who wants to talk about just our approach to data privacy? Maybe Ian, get started just on how we think about governance generally, and then maybe others chime in on data privacy and other parts of that equation.
Yeah, so a good AI governance policy does a few things, right? It creates guide rails for employees to understand where, how, and which tools they can leverage AI, right? Create clarity there. It protects an organization against things like IP leakage or data leakage. So, there were stories early on about Samsung and Apple where they were using, particular AI tools. I won't mention names, but in their interactions, they're inputting IP, they're inputting private data, and those things are leveraged to train models, and then they become publicly accessible. So it's really important to guide employees towards these are the tools, but not just these are the tools, but these are the licenses we're going to provide for these tools, because that's going to create the security in how we're leveraging AI. I think there's another facet that I like to emphasize with governance too, which is kind of back to the culture point. A governance policy can also articulate to your organization sort of your approach to AI. Are you going to be more progressive? Do you want to have a more rapid, open process for ingesting tool requests, processing those and approving them or declining them? Or do you want to be more, security focused and maybe more rigid in the tools that you're going to provide for your employees? I think you can message that through a governance policy. So it's really important. It seems sort of like bureaucracy in a way, but I think it's a really important communication mechanism for an organization.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we want to drive home with everybody is we're not just talking about the models that you're going to use. So you may decide to use OpenAI or Vertex or any of those things. Remember, this is a very real thing probably happening right now, and you may not realize it. For example, for those who are keeping up in the news, Elon Musk's X is being sued for automatically collecting data information. So the European Union sued him. Austria just started suing him today for legal reasons, a different matter. So that's underway. And other products may be automatically capturing your data. Anthony mentioned Grammarly. They do some data collection. Slack does data collection. There's a whole lot of places that do data collection. So whether it's your own models and making sure that they're not collecting data, or these off-the-shelf models, you want to make sure that you're very aware of their data collection policy.
Yeah, and one thing I would add to that too, Zain, is that every company has identifiable information they want to keep protected, right? There are methods within the AI environment where you can actually make use of like the AI large language model without actually putting your information into that model, right? So you can keep that local and protected. So I just wanted to point that out too.
Yeah, while you're talking, Ken, I think one thing we've mentioned several times here is ROI. And I think that's really important, again, to our approach as a company around AI. Is we're an outcomes-focused company. We want to drive value. We don't want to just check a box and say, oh, we can do AI too. We don't want to help our clients check a box and be able to add to a product description. Oh, we have AI here. We're really looking to drive real value. And Ken, I wondered if you could just talk for a moment about how you can quantify, how do we set up these experiments? How do we set up these proof of concepts in a way that ROI is measurable? That, what are some of the guardrails around that we've helped our clients with?
Yes, certainly. Well, one example I can give you is we have a client who's a made-to-order manufacturing company. And their business problem is really long engineering lead times, inaccurate shop orders, and inventory challenges, I think, sometimes. So, it takes them a long time to go from a purchase order to a shop order where they can actually execute on the manufacturing line. That translates into delays and rework that actually originates from the shop floor, which is the last place you want to find out you have issues. So what we're doing is we're utilizing the large language model and AI search capabilities. And we've indexed decades of previous drawings and shop orders to shorten that process from days, weeks to maybe just hours. What happens essentially is if a purchase order that's submitted by a client, if it fails their audit process, then the AI helps them make decisions and suggestions based on previous successful builds that they've actually shipped and sent to customers. So, and of course, we're using machine learning to start training the AI so that it starts to get better over time. And the idea is each iteration, each process should develop better information going forward. And so, we're able to go from a weeks long engineering process to an hours long engineering process, and eliminate, if we can, any issues with the data that's getting sent to the shop floor for manufacture.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think one thing we've kind of talked around, we've talked a little bit about data ingestion, we've talked a lot about AI, but I think one of the things that we see internally as the essential building block of AI models is data. And I'd like to just ask Stephen and Anthony, you guys can go in any order that you want. What are some of the first steps that a company should take around evaluating and kind of modernizing their data?
Yeah, I can start off there. So I would say, Josh is first understanding what kind of data you have. Really getting to know your data, and that's understanding, like, is the data sparse? Is it complete? Do you have a bunch of different disparate data sources where your data is coming from? How is the data aggregated? So just kind of looking at kind of the basics of the data, understanding what that looks like. And that's really, really important as you move forward in any type of process, whether it's machine learning, AI, or data science, is really having that foundational understanding of your data, because at that point, then you can identify how are we going to use this data to make decisions on, or use it as a analytics or dashboarding. These are all pieces that you have to think about later on. But before you even go get that far, you really need to understand what kind of data you currently have and what you're working with. Stephen, do you want to add something on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Anthony. Yeah, on your journey to being an AI-enabled organization, the first step is to consider yourself data-driven, right? So a lot of enterprises are already in this space. They're already thinking about this problem. What's interesting is that we're encountering customers that we're working with today where we've applied AI to that data hygiene exercise, right? So being able to have AI empowered ingestion from disparate data sources, for instance, go through a normalization process that's given some horsepower, if you will, by AI, is becoming a very thematic part of the conversations that we're having with people. So again, very utilitarian approach to a very core concept of being able to have AI truly empowering your organization is this idea of data consistency. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go through the exercise yourself, right? Let's leverage AI to help us with that exercise. Right? And it's kind of a self-referencing thing there, but it is capable of doing that. And we're actually seeing in some cases where some of our customers are working with disparate data sources that are ingesting from their own customers. Onboarding a new customer in one case took 3 or 4 months because of the mapping exercise that needed to occur. But by using AI to help with that ingestion is actually down to 3 days, right? So it's a huge measurable ROI in scenarios like that.
We're talking about data ROI. I think something we haven't talked about is not just the product itself, but product development. What are some ways, we really believe in practicing what we preach, so to speak. And I think we have some interesting internal projects of things that we've done. One that I'm thinking about is, to every company, stories are really important. And one of the things we've done as a company is we want our success stories to be something that everybody has access to, whether you worked on that project or not. And so we built a model that allows us to ask questions about what have we done in this space? What have we done in that space? And the model will come back via Slack, actually, and give us case studies, facts, figures, so that we can begin, because anybody can talk about something, but when you've actually done something and delivered results, that's way better. Ian, what are some other ways that in our delivery teams we're using AI to make the work we do better?
Yeah, I mean, the probably most common place we're using it, and we referenced this earlier, is within software development itself, writing application code. The tooling, the generative code tooling is just getting better and better very rapidly. There's a lot of different options out there, depending on your scenario and the type of context you want to give a tool, whether you're providing it entire repository access or not. So that's one. The AI tooling around test automation is also getting extremely impressive. So using computer vision style models to do UI testing versus looking at a particular ID for components within a website and then writing automated tests that way, which can be very costly to maintain over time. Some of the new approaches using AI are a lot more efficient. There's a tool that allows you to essentially feed in your sitemap for an entire website, and it'll create a baseline of automated tests based on all the context across your site. So, and then they provide mechanisms to validate and enhance and catch maybe where a test is not providing the validation that you want. So there's a lot of options, and I think that's one of the most exciting things about engaging with AI in the development process, is that there's so many new tools, new approaches that are being developed that are available, that you can really sort of determine which tooling, which approach works best within your application space, within your development team, your approach. And the efficiency gain there is real. So it's definitely something we engage in and encourage partners that we work with and customers to explore as well.
Zain, one thing I wanted to ask you, we're talking about tooling here. And Ian's talking about tooling at the very micro level, of how you code things, how you're writing, doing your testing, etc. The other side is also equally powerful, right? The tooling that exists in the cloud to kind of amplify the work that we're writing in cloud native applications. Can you speak to that just a little bit? Kind of the cloud tool base that exists and the things that are available there?
Yeah, absolutely, Josh. And one of the things we have to consider is a lot of people are wondering if they should build or buy, right? Do I build local? Do I keep it locally on my machines, or do I, do it in the cloud? The short answer is do it in the cloud to start. If you're gonna start incrementally, start with very low cost and start quickly. And the way you do that is with cloud. It's going to give you the quickest path to getting your AI up, getting it running, and then when time comes, if you like it, scaling it. So, if the old question of build versus buy for now, and up until you get to the point where you decide maybe you want to build. And even once you buy, there's lots of things you can do. So don't think that you're going to be stuck. We have a wealth of things that we can do with AI. One classic example is we offer for large language models, we can do fine tuning. A lot of people aren't even aware this exists, where we can take a foundation model like OpenAI's GPT and then fine tune it or give it a whole lot of examples and make it behave a particular way specific to what we need. So, and that's one of the things that we do here. We often engage in fine-tuning activities, grabbing those foundation models for customers and making them work the way our customers need them to. So I think when it comes to tooling all up and the cloud choice, though, honestly, it really depends on who you want to use. If you want to use OpenAI, you're probably going to go Microsoft. If you want to use Anthropic, they got a great relationship with Google, and if you want to use a variety of places, you can go with Amazon. So it really just depends on your choice of model as to what cloud provider you use. Although, to be honest, all the cloud providers kind of allow for just about anything you want to do anyway. So if you have a personal preference already, you can do that as well.
That's awesome. We are getting to the end of our first part here, and I wanted just to remind everybody, if you have questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. Laura will be moderating questions here in a bit. I see we already actually have one question from Alfredo about helping client IT teams that are not familiar with AI, implementing AI. Ken, can you talk to that a little bit, maybe?
Yeah, certainly. So, I mean, as a consulting company, part of our commitment to our clients is to make sure when we leave an engagement, that everyone who is there, right, can maintain and continue developing our solution that we produce, right? So one of the things that we pride ourselves in is mentoring team members for our clients, bringing them along with that journey and really making them responsible for helping do some of the work, right? So that they understand that. And it's not just in the AI world. There's all of the secondary applications that we need to use to get there, right? It's the ETL tools, it's the cognitive search and AI search tools, it's the AI studio tools that we need to use, right? They're all new and there's a learning curve, and so that's part of our commitment to our clients, is that we will help them get there before we walk away.
100%. Before we get into questions, just one more thing around, and I think it goes really, Ken, to what you were talking about there. There's a people component to all of this change. And not only is Sparq going to mentor And that's definitely part of the equation, is the mentoring and understanding of the new tools. But people, technology cannot replace people. And I wonder if somebody could just talk about our approach to change management, understanding kind of the people component of the change. Stephen, you mentioned change anxiety. Maybe you could speak to this, just a little bit of how we've brought teams along in this process, where it's a net win for the company rather than some sort of loss.
Yeah, absolutely. Sort of piggybacking on what Ken was talking about earlier, we really do have this paired delivery model mindset with the clients that we work with. I think that's a differentiator for Sparq, actually. There's a lot of consultancies out there that want to deliver sort of the black box solution to clients, and that creates an embedded dependency over the duration of time. We're working with clients from the very beginning to make sure that we are pairing them in the exercise of designing and delivering the solution so that they are a part of the process, right? That involvement is actually a huge driver in reducing adoption anxiety for these tools. Once people see, demystify, if you will, kind of the concept of AI, the mechanics of AI, there's a lot of reduction in that anxiety just overall that happens. So they're in a position where they can own it more, create their own destiny around it after we're done going again through these kind of pilot utilitarian development exercises with them.
100%. And I think one of the things we've also and it's been mentioned here several times, I think the level to which AI is in use broadly already, in an additive capacity, like Grammarly, and we mentioned the Slack bots that we use here at Sparq. I think, yeah. So what I want to do now. Oh, Ian, did you have something to
Yeah,
add?
I was just gonna kind of add, I think with the advent of ChatGPT and the popularity behind that, there's an incredible amount of users that are starting to engage with AI. More and more, we see it incorporated into different software products. So, where often maybe 2 years ago you'd be engaging with AI and not knowing it. There's more and more AI just application across the product landscape. Apple's rolling out AI integrated hardware, so it's going to be part of the sort of native experience. Same thing with Windows. It's incorporated into Android in a big way now. So users in general, people are getting more familiar and will continue to get more familiar with these applications of AI. And so I think, bridging that gap is going to become a little bit easier over time. And also, that sort of emphasizes the importance of just starting down this journey, like knowing that it is going to be a more expected part of the user's experience when they're starting to interact with any product.
100%.
Josh, I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what Ian was saying here. I think the thing is to reduce anxiety here is just to start small. Find an area where you can take maybe some of your data or an area, an application, or a challenge that you're having, and start with a small POC on that. And once you start building that momentum, you'll see a lot of ROI there, and it'll also help from a cultural standpoint to kind of change the tide there for people to start adopting AI.
100%. Ken, I think you had something to add as well.
Yeah, I was just going to add that, AI infused applications, I think is what we're talking about, right? Kind of the term for it. They're everywhere, right? And any of the applications that a client or a customer might use in their organization now that has an API capability can be infused with AI, right? So you can actually put AI on top of applications that you're already using without developing new technology. So that might be a great place to start for a small victory to give your organization kind of the culture boost and just the technology boost that it needs to get you over the finish line.
Yeah, 100%. As you might be able to tell, we love this topic. But I do want to give a little bit of time for questions. I know, Laura, that some questions came in ahead of time, and also there may be questions that come in the chat. I don't know if you wanted to jump on and kind of help us sort through the questions, and we'll answer them as we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Josh. First one we've got here is, we know the AI is constantly evolving. What trends are you all seeing in the AI market currently? And how are you seeing companies adapting to these trends?
I'll take some of that. So the biggest trend right now we're seeing in the AI space is towards AI agents or agentic AI. The idea is pretty basic. Where before we had a single chat GPT, now we can have chat GPTs talk to each other. And you've got a chat GPT that's specialized in doing a thing. And then it takes that and it passes it to another chat GPT that does this other thing, and so on and so forth. You might think of a travel agent. You might have one that checks, for your departure, one that checks for your arrival, one that checks to make sure you're doing whatever, things you like. Does it have all the features? Is it flying on an airline that has a good safety rating, and so on and so forth? Agentic AI is absolutely the direction we're going now.
One of the other things, and Stephen, I'm going to kind of cue you up if you don't mind here, that we're seeing, and this actually is kind of the model that Apple is introducing. A lot of organizations that are concerned about their data security, like sending their data out to a third party, are taking more of an on-prem model approach, and then opportunistically and when appropriate, then leveraging out to a third party model. Maybe Stephen, you could elaborate on that.
Yeah, sure. Our CTO Derek is the one I'm going to give credit to coining this phrase, the democratization of AI accessibility within tools. So you're starting to see data warehouse tools, data ingestion tools, pipeline tools being AI enabled in a powerful way that gives access in a completely sequestered, completely secure model to customers. So creating your own AI layer inside your organization completely on your data, and Ken had mentioned this earlier, is a completely viable prospect today, right? What gets interesting is hybridizing that with some of the public models, right? The bigger engines that are out there. Again, most of those public models are going to give you sequestered capabilities, right? So there's a lot of evolution occurring in this particular space, where tooling on the inside of the enterprise that's done in a very governed, compliant way, combined with, again, secure access to some of these more broad-based LLMs, right, to be able to harness that power as well.
And the cool thing, Stephen, now is that we have computers that have new processors in them called NPUs. These are neural network processors, and you could actually run your own AI in your own environment against a large language model in the cloud. I mean, it's a really cool technology. I saw some earlier this month, and it is just spectacular. So
it's amazing.
So we had another great question come in from Cesario, and his question is, AI is taken as a kind of panacea for plenty of current and future problems. However, I do think that some benchmarks are needed in order to make sure that AI is solving problems in a more efficient way. You guys speak to metrics.
Oh boy. Yeah. So you have asked the right question. There are a lot of benchmarks out there today, like the MMLU, human eval, and so on and so forth. And the AI community now is struggling with metrics, and I'll tell you why. One of the things that we're concerned about, and recently has been discovered in some cases, when a popular foundation model comes out with metrics using some of these classic benchmarks, unfortunately, it appears that some of the test questions have been used either accidentally or on purpose to train the models, and therefore the models are artificially doing better on the benchmarks than they should be. Now, to mitigate this, you've had a few companies come out with private benchmarking. However, the problem with that is it's not transparent for obvious reasons. So the best we could say about benchmarks is, for better or worse, take them with a grain of salt, but they are the only measuring stick we have right now. And normally when a foundation model comes out, you'll see a whole list of things it does, and they'll say, oh, it does way better than that, this or the other. Give yourself a few percentage points, plus or minus, for error, and I think you'll be okay there. That's generally the approach that I take.
And Zane, just to add into that, kind of at a macro scale too, comparing AI problem solving to, for lack of a better way to put it, human problem solving, right? So how much of a metric gain do you get, a performance gain do you get in those scenarios? We've talked about a couple. Ken had mentioned, in the manufacturing company that he was discussing earlier, that it's taking it from 3 to 4 weeks down to hours, right? And then I talked about an example, and these are real world examples, by the way, this is not academic, taking a 3 to 4 month onboarding of a client down to 3 days. That's a very measurable impact to an enterprise, to the advent of AI against what would traditionally be a more human operated space. So you can measure those scenarios quite well, actually. And going back to the idea of where do you start? If you have that outcome driven lens, you look for opportunities like that, right? Where you have maybe not even an exponential opportunity to improve things, but a logarithmic opportunity to improve things. And AI is actually very capable of doing that in the right scenarios.
Yeah, feeding off what Steven said, we haven't yet to address the elephant in the room. I'm sure some of you are thinking it is, well, will AI start writing my code for me? And the answer is maybe, but not today. In fact, just today, a company called Cosine AI came out with Genie. It is considered the most advanced software engineering AI to date, and it only achieves a 30% rate of success, as opposed to what all models did before it, which was in the teens. So we will not be seeing AI replace developers anytime soon. So that tackles a couple things, right? Do I have an expectation that it's going to do the code for me? No, and nor should you. Should my people be concerned that they're going to lose their jobs? No, not anytime soon. It is not going to happen. We have a long way to go. Most likely we'll achieve artificial general intelligence before that's even possible. So I think that particular issue, when dealing with FUD, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, you can put to bed right away. And I'll include a link to Genie so you guys can see it for yourselves and see the metrics around it. 30% is impressive, but it's going to be a long time before we get better than that.
Yeah, in your organization, right? Within your organization, you have metrics already, right? And to what Stephen was saying, you have metrics. You know how to measure success in your organization. So look internally for a rule stick or a ruler that you can use to measure those successes or failures, because there may be some, right? But you're going to learn from each one of those. So.
So we have another question here. We're almost at time, so we'll have to be brief, very brief on this one. But obviously today we're talking about AI infused products. What could you share as maybe a best practice for incorporating AI into the product development lifecycle?
I'll take a piece of that. So if you're going to incorporate AI into your process, particularly if you have AI that needs to consume knowledge, the one big thing you have to consider is retraining. So you're going to have to constantly feed new information as it changes and updates back into the model in some way. That is priority number one. And that is way different than normal operations, right? So we have DevOps that many of you've heard of. The new term ML Ops incorporates that retraining structure into that process.
Yeah, because you can train the AI, right? But you can't untrain the AI. So you have to be very careful with your data, and this gets back to data, right? So you don't want to train on bad information, because now your AI knows the wrong way to do something, right? So retraining is something we have to incorporate into the machine learning process. And one of the ways that I achieve that a little bit is I try to store that data in a data lake so I can time travel and go back and say, well, reset to this point in time, so that I don't have to go back and completely retrain the AI from the beginning, right? There's a data set there we can use to do that.
I think one area, and just wrapping up this question, is I think those are all absolutely true answers on the engine part of things. I think the other part of building AI into our products is really goes back to our product development mindset. How are we going to build products with users in mind? There are things that our users they want to do themselves. They want to be able to influence how AI helps them. And so I think classic product development and understanding your users is still key. AI is not magic dust that you can spread over anything and make it better. You really want to understand what your specific users need in what specific use cases, and what drives value and pleasure to them. And so I think that, just standard understanding your users is really important in this space as well. So I think, as everybody in the webinar probably can tell, this team could probably talk about this for another few hours, but we have reached the end of our time. And so I really want to thank you for joining us today, and just remind you that while AI has amazing potential, starting small and making incremental gains is really important. We'd love to continue this conversation with you. I think we mentioned already our white paper that's on our website. At the bottom of that screen, there's a form for us to reach out to you all and have a more specific conversation to your needs. We would love to do that. And so thank you so much for joining us today. And we really hope that we get to talk to you in person soon.